This is where the fun really begins. You guys just made the signing of Kyle Tucker official. Have you started playing with just kind of what the top of the order could look like? Have you started writing out some names? And then you also have the rotation. Like, there's just so much going on this offseason to really put this team in a position to really take on that three-peat.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's a fun exercise when you're talking about certainly the rotation and you're talking about the position player side. And, you know, I do know that Kyle Tucker will be in right field. Teo will be in left field, and you know, Andy will be in center field. And so as far as lineup construction, I think I know who's going to hit leadoff. And then, yeah, you know, it's interesting. I'm going to have a conversation with Freddie, Mookie, and Kyle as well. But kind of first glance, I see him kind of hitting second or third.
Yeah, with the news of Kyle Tucker and just obviously the talent that he is. He's won a World Series. He's got All-Star. All of the things we've talked about on the list, but when it comes to a player like him, what does he really just add to this organization right now, especially with, you know, having won in the past, but I have to imagine the fire and the want for more?
I think, you know, he's got a, you know, very good skill set in the sense that he runs the bases well. He can steal a base. He can go first to third. He can play gold glove defense. And he's got an accurate throwing arm. And I think on the offensive side, he really controls the strike zone really well, gets on base, is always a high on-base guy. He's a neutral split guy, so he hits lefties and righties very well. And he's just an impact player. So I just think for me, it just adds to the relentlessness of our lineup.
Did you have any relationship with him in the past, or how has it been just kind of learning him? I know it's probably been just a few days, but how has it been kind of getting to know him and seeing who he is, of course, you know, on the field, but now kind of off the field?
You know, we had a brief interaction in Tokyo in the elevator before or after one of those Cubs games, but that was about it. I think he's a guy that kind of just stays to himself, focuses on his job. But in the last week, it's been great getting to have conversations with him, his wife Sam, and I mentioned in the presser that there's an inner fire, and I just like the way he loves to compete, loves baseball, loves his teammates, and he's an impact guy. But you know, we have a lot of impact guys, so it's a nice ad for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's only a few weeks till spring training. I mean, when you heard the news, just how exciting is this for you, and just kind of what this team can really look like this season?
It's unbelievable, Kirsten. It's you know, what this ownership group has done, what Andrew and Gomer, the front office, and you know, I think back to signing Freddie, trading for Mookie, you know, signing Shohei, and then now it's like Kyle Tucker is just not going to be an option because it's an embarrassment of riches, and you just have so many, you know, great players. But you know, the thing that is kind of commonplace, the theme is that our fans show up every single night. And I do feel like all of us feel that we have the best fans in sports. And so how do we repay them? You keep getting better. And in the offseason of 2026, we just got better.
It's almost time to see all of it playing out on the field. Only a few weeks till spring training. Dave, I know this is going to be a little bit more time to relax and the fun really begins. So thank you as always, and congratulations on today with the news of Kyle Tucker.
Thanks, Kirsten. We'll see you in Glendale. It's coming soon.
It's coming real soon.
Yes, it's going in the here and now, Bob. The Dodgers keep on keeping on, and the Kyle Tucker signing is just the latest $60 million or $50 million a year log on the fire. At least in the case of Tucker, he didn't put it all into some 401k like Shohei and Yamamoto and maybe some others have done beforehand. Does baseball have a problem, or is just this the 21st century version of what Steinbrenner was doing for the Yankees back in the day?
No, it's even worse or more extreme. And the Dodgers situation, because it's so front and center, because of the two-time World Series champions and everything they do is a focus of public attention, this is helping to bring it to a head. Most observers believe that a lockout after this season, which would take effect in December of 26 and would imperil at least a portion of the 27 baseball season, the way they look at it now, a lockout is almost inevitable because a large number of the owners just believe that this has gotten to a point where it's untenable. Now, this doesn't mean that you're criticizing the Dodgers for doing what they're almost uniquely able to do, uniquely even when compared to other rich teams like the Yankees. the Guggenheim situation, I don't know that I understand all the economic dynamics, but suffice it to say that they're in a position to do some things that other teams cannot. Now, when you talk about Kyle Tucker, Rich, Kyle Tucker is a very good baseball player. He's now making $20 million more than Aaron Judge. Now, one of the ways the teams have approached this is other teams offered Kyle Tucker a longer-term deal, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. The Dodgers said 4 years at a much higher per annum salary. And I think there are opt-outs. Why would Kyle Tucker opt out? But I think there are opt-outs after the third year or something like that of the 4-year deal.
Well, the opt-out would be if his contract suddenly looks like Aaron Judge's in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, and that's part of the conundrum.
Yeah.
But also, I can sit here and say there are some owners that can't do what the Guggenheims and the Dodgers are doing, or they won't. Like, they will not, because they can sit back and take whatever luxury taxes the Dodgers are willing to pay, or what they're not circumventing by creating the retirement plans here, and just pocketing it and just going for it and just saying, 90 wins are enough. Or you can also push back and say the Dodgers, with all their riches, damn near lost the World Series, and one of the most exhilarating World Series, I think you and I can agree on that, have been played in recent years. Where do you think the fix is? Is it a cap? I don't want a lockout. Nobody does. What do you think?
You touched on a lot of interesting points there.
Sure.
The Dodgers are going to pay more this coming year in luxury tax than about a third of the franchises will pay in their entire payroll.
That's crazy.
There are a few things that mitigate the advantages of the wealthy teams. One is that there are multiple layers of playoffs. And if you get there, almost anything can happen. It's easy to forget that the Dodgers, who played it as like a long game this year, this past year, they were trying to hit a peak in October, and they were willing not to win 100 games. They only won, I think, 93. They had the third best division record among the division winners of the National League. Thus, they had to subject themselves to a 2 out of 3 wild card round against the Reds. Now, that seems like a walkover in retrospect, but 2 out of 3, suppose the Reds won 2 out of 3 at Dodger Stadium in June. No one would bat an eye. They start Hunter Green in the first game. Suppose he shoves the bats up the Dodgers' behinds, and now they're down 1-0, and all the pressure's on them.
Right.
In the 3 preceding seasons, they lost to the Padres, who they were some 22 games better than during the regular season, lost to the Padres in the division series. The next year, they were swept by the Diamondbacks from their own division, 16 games better than them in the division series. And in 2024, when they were on their way to winning the World Series, they were down 2-1 in a best-of-5 to the Padres yet again. So that's how precarious all this is, to your point. Another point here is that one of the things that mitigates this is you now have 3 wild cards, and the 2 central divisions are really pretty much competitively equal. The only one of the 10 teams in the 2 central divisions that ranks in the top half of payrolls as of last year is the Cubs, and they have the capability of going higher. I think the next highest was the Tigers at like 17. So this is how the Brewers, who are extremely resourceful, can win 97 games and be in a good spot within their own division. This is how a year or so ago, the Royals, the Tigers, and the Guardians, I think, all made the postseason, and the Twins were in it until the last week. Those central divisions and the third wild card do kind of mitigate the disadvantages. And to your point, win 90, maybe even win 86, 87 under certain circumstances, you're in the tournament, and baseball's different from other sports. In a short series, anybody can prevail.
So you think a cap's the answer? And would that ever happen? Is that ever going to happen?
They're talking about some version of a cap.
Right.
And I guess what they're hoping for is that they can convince Tony Clark and the other people at the Players Association that this is not going to wind up with any ball player standing on a corner rattling a tin cup and asking passerbys for loose change. You know, that the setup here is not to drastically suppress salaries. It's try to bring things into some kind of balance. And there are ways to do that with the overall revenue of the industry, the measurable revenue of the industry, which doesn't take into account the equity and how much more they can sell it for than they bought it for. But that's one of the advantages of investment,
Right.
one of the advantages of ownership. But there are ways, if there's something that comes up short, all right, here's the overflow. The Players Association redistributes it among their membership. And of course, if there's a salary cap or some mechanism that mocks a salary cap, then it doesn't happen without a salary floor. I didn't mean mocks. That's the wrong word. What is the word I'm looking for?
Mimics. Right.
Mimics. That's exactly right.
Right.
It starts with an M. Mimics a salary cap.
Right.
But it can't happen without a salary floor. If you're going to share all this revenue and if you're going to have some restraints on the top, then the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to have to spend some of that revenue sharing money.
Right. And then also what I think a cap of, or whatever, as you point out, mimics it, would also, I think, bring about a sense of urgency when free agency hits rather than this 3-month meandering that fans have a difficult time paying attention to. And it might mimic what we see in the NFL and the NBA, which is a rush to sign people because you got to use your cap money wisely with people that are worthy of the expenditure. I think it would be great if baseball had a free agency period that went off the rails, if you will, for a 10-day or a 14-day period, similar to what the NFL and the NBA has when their new league year starts, as opposed to, you know, Cody Bellinger signs in the middle of January, right before the NFL playoffs, or, you know, Kyle Tucker signs in the middle of the divisional round. It gets lost, you know, and then there's a lot of fans are waiting to see what happens, and the offseason takes forever, and it's tough to get fans, you know, juiced up. I shouldn't use that phrase. Pardon me. It couldn't get fans, you know, excited, you know, in a way that baseball deserves. And baseball has clearly had the ability to engender that World Series, Bob, lit up phone lines on this show.
Yeah.
And all the metrics that we measure for popularity of videos and whatever, like any NFL big time game, that World Series just lit it up. Ohtani lights it up. I mean, it's there. It's there. It needs to be harnessed, Bob. Needs to be harnessed.
At the Baseball Network, you know, Brian Kenny, who's great,
Yes.
likes to do all these top 10 lists. And he and I are doing one on Friday, and he's asked me to rank the top 10 World Series in the divisional era,
Yes.
which is since 1969. And on my list, I have this past World Series, Blue Jays, Dodgers, number one, displacing the series that had ranked as number one seemingly forever, the 1975 7-gamer between the Reds and the Red Sox that featured that Carlton Fisk home run off the foul pole in Game 6 and a lot of Hall of Fame players and all the rest. I cannot remember a Game 7 that was any better because you had a half dozen moments where any pitch the whole World Series could have turned on it, including 2 consecutive pitches. The ground ball to second base that Rojas backhanded and then stumbled for a breathtaking moment before finally righting himself. And IKF is out at the plate by a fraction of an inch. And had he taken a lead literally of only 1 foot further down the third base line, there it is, then the World Series is over. There's a replay review. And how weird would it have been to have a World Series end on a replay review? But the call was upheld, and when they resumed on the very next pitch, that's when Ernie Clement, unsung hero until he became one of the big names of this postseason, hammers one to left center, and that's the ball on which Pages makes the catch, knocking Hernandez over. 2 consecutive pitches that could have ended the World Series. So you have an incredible 7th game, but you also had, not equally incredible, but certainly noteworthy, a great 6th game in Toronto that ends on the double play with the Hernandez catch, and he pegs to second base, and Rojas makes a nice pick, and they turn it into a double play. And you had an 18-inning 3rd game at Dodger Stadium that ended with a walk-off Freddie Freeman home run. Who else has 2 walk-off home runs in back-to-back World Series? Nobody, just Freddie.
Yeah, I know.
So when you take it in its totality, I think this is the best World Series I've ever seen.
I'm with you, Bob. 100%. And you know, the Blue Jays proved in Dodger Stadium, unlike the Yankees, you don't have to fold after Freddie Freeman hits one out on you in extra innings of a World Series game.
And you know, the Blue Jays did everything but win.
I know. They were
The Blue
great,
Jays,
man.
The Blue Jays, you can make a case that they outplayed them.